Hey, you guys. I just wanted to let you guys know what we are up to in my human lactation class. This week, we are talking about cultural barriers to breastfeeding. And so, what that means is something that is standing in the way of supporting someone with their breastfeeding journey. So, in class, we made a really big, diagram. I'll show you right here. So we talked about all these barriers such as family, lack of information, lack of support, a body image issue, your age, what your race is, um, a modesty issue, your religion, discouragement, the time it takes, going back to work, your socioeconomic status. All of these things can be a barrier when it comes to breastfeeding. And so I had to pick a topic and write a paper on it. And I am going to share that with you. So the title of my paper is The Lack of Paid Maternity Leave as a Barrier to Breastfeeding. I chose maternity leave as that barrier because the United States is one of the only first world countries that has absolutely no government mandated paid maternity leave. We are zero. We're below 41 other countries that have a paid maternity leave policy. So I'm going to go into that in my paper. I figured I'd read it to you guys. In the United States today, new mothers face many barriers to successful long-term breastfeeding. One of these barriers is the lack of paid maternity leave. This paper examines how the Family Medical Leave Act is serving new mothers, how other countries fare with paid leave and their successful breastfeeding rates, and the importance of establishing a supply of milk within the newborn period. The FMLA was established in 1993 with the intent of providing up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for medical leave for oneself or a family member. There's a number of stipulations to be eligible for 12 weeks of unpaid leave, including working at the place for with more than 50 employees, and also working there for a set amount of time or hours. The only benefit really emerging from the FMLA is that someone caring for or needing medical leave can't lose their job within those 12 weeks, which you would think is unethical. When De Silver viewed the data, he found that only 14% of workers have access to paid leave, with the majority of these workers being in fields that require a college degree. Among workers that did not have a college degree, 11% of workers were let go from their jobs during pregnancy or around the time of childbirth. Yeah. So people that don't have a college degree that are in, say, the service industry or anything else, they're just screwed. Okay, back to the paper. So currently, California, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and the District of Columbia all have state-mandated paid leave plans, but the U.S. does not have a government-mandated maternity-specific leave plan. Researchers at the OECD Family Database found that out of 41 first world countries, the U.S. is the only one without a paid government-mandated maternity leave plan. Mexico offers the least amount of paid maternity leave, with a total of 12 weeks paid time off at 100% of your pay. And Estonia offers the longest paid maternity leave, with birthing people being eligible for 166 weeks of paid maternity leave at a pay rate of about 50%. The 2018 United States CDC breastfeeding report card showed a breastfeeding rate of 57.6 at 6 months of age. Estonia, the country with the longest paid maternity leave, showed an astonishing 71.9% of children were exclusively or partially breastfed at the age of 6 months. Observing Mexico, they showed a 55% breastfeeding rate at 6 months of age. Even though Mexico offers paid maternity leave, the country does have a lower rate of breastfeeding at 6 months than the U.S. showing that there are indeed other barriers than just paid maternity leave that exist when it comes to successful breastfeeding. The implementation of a government-mandated paid maternity leave would give new mothers the freedom to establish good breastfeeding practices. People who go back to work soon after the birth of their baby are not able to feed the baby on demand and develop the milk supply that their baby requires. There are also barriers at work that prevent new mothers from pumping often enough to maintain a good supply. With the limitations in the amount of time allowed to pump while at work and the dwindling milk supply, this causes the new mother to resort to formula as a way of feeding their baby. When all people have access to paid maternity leave in America, we will see improvements in the physical and mental health of new parents as well as healthier children long term. Families in disadvantaged communities would see the greatest results. The nation would benefit from paid maternity leave economically, as well as contributing to the morale of the nation as a whole. So that was my paper on the barrier of breastfeeding being the lack of paid maternity leave in the United States. I did see that in the past few years, there have been, the Democrats and the Republicans have been trying to improve things, but Democrats and Republicans often butt heads. So we are making slow progress, but we're at least making some progress. Part of being a midwife is knowing what these things that are happening politically are and contributing to that. It is part of our responsibility to advocate and talk to our legislators about these issues. We are on the front lines, so we do see them, the issues happening more as a first-hand perspective. I know that whenever I had my children, the absence of paid maternity leave was a big struggle for our family. We did try to save some money up, but it definitely forced us into moving around more often, trying to find cheaper costs of living because my husband was working a low-income job. Neither of us had college degrees, so we fell right within that. My job at the time definitely did not offer any kind of paid leave. So it was definitely a struggle, and I think that had I been offered paid maternity leave, I would have been much more likely to return to work, and that is what the studies suggest as well. And it would have been much easier and a lot less stressful. Me scrambling, trying to afford things and afford lower place to live. So I think that we are making headway. We need to push. We need to pursue this. And what are your thoughts? What do you think? Did you struggle as you were a new mother facing the challenge of having to go back to work after only 2 weeks? People are having to go back to work because they cannot afford to stay home, and they're literally still bleeding, having to go back to work. And it's just a travesty in this country. What are your thoughts? Subscribe down below if you want to see more videos about what it is like being a student midwife at Midwives College of Utah, and I will keep you updated. All right, I hope you have a wonderful day. Be sure to check down in the description below. I will put some articles talking about the state of maternity leave in America, as well as how it's going in other countries.